welcome to the stage two people who spend more time in airplanes than they do on the ground. They are two people that are really extraordinarily important to the future of Louisiana, and that is not an overstatement. They are titans, and that's not an overstatement in the industry that we all operate in. They will help us ensure that Louisiana prospers in global trade in the future. So I'd like to invite up to the stage John Orr and Matt Leech.
Did a great job.
Thank you. Okay, let's have a seat. So most places have a fireside chat, but given we're a port, we're having a waterside chat. So just as introduction, I think many of you in the room actually know these gentlemen, but I am going to give you a brief introduction because they're both pretty extraordinary leaders in our space that we operate in. So all the way on my right is John Orr. Since his appointment in 2024, John Orr is the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer of the Norfolk Southern Railroad. He's a little busy these days. John began his career at the Canadian National as a conductor in 1985 and is a fourth-generation railroader. He led operations at Kansas City Southern Railway, then helped integrate Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Southern Railways. Following that merger, John served as CPKC's Chief Transformation Officer. At Norfolk Southern, and we can attest to this through our dealings and operations with him, he is laser focused on driving safe, reliable service, productivity, and growth. Norfolk Southern operates the most extensive intermodal network in the eastern United States, links to every major Atlantic, Gulf, and Great Lakes container port, and moves 7 million carloads annually. Railway Age has just named John the 2026 Railroader of the Year. Welcome, John.
Thank you.
He also did...
She wasn't supposed to say that.
He flew in this morning, and he did share with me that there's no place like New Orleans. He got off his plane, went directly to a shop, and had coffee and oysters for breakfast. So he's definitely a New Orleans fan. Matt Leech, to my right, I've known for about 30 years, and he almost has honorary New Orleans, Louisiana citizenship because he spends a lot of time here. Matt Leech was appointed President and CEO of Ports America in 2022. He previously spent 18 years with port terminal operator called DP World in senior global roles. He served as the Chief Operating Officer based in Dubai for the company's Ports and Terminals division. Following that role, Matt was appointed CEO of the Americas region for DP World Americas. He began his maritime career on the ocean carrier side of the house with Sealand Service, where we met. He also held operations and business development roles with CSX World Terminals. Ports America is the largest U.S. terminal operator and stevedore in the country, active at more than 70 locations across 33 plus ports, handling containers, break bulk, autos, ro-ro, military, and cruise. And I should just add that Ports America is the operator here at Port NOLA, both on the containerized side and also on the break bulk side.
For a century.
For a century.
For a century.
For a century, so thank you. So both John and Matt lead organizations, obviously, that are really an integral part of the future of our state and of the Port of New Orleans and our position as a gateway, global trade gateway. So with that, I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to you all. I am really interested in your C-suite view.
Well, I'll tell you, the best C-suite view was this morning across the street, and truly a mix of raw and charbroiled oysters is a way to really orient yourself in New Orleans, one of the most vibrant and exciting cities in the world, not just for the entertainment and the food, but for the connection to the world. And in the C-suite, and it's hard for me to say that because I still consider myself a conductor and a locomotive engineer sometimes. It's important to be connected to things that are relevant and to work within your powers to partner and create stakeholder engagement to help accelerate that. But there's an entry for me. The ante on the table, is it reliable? Is it safe? Is it credible? And is it led by people with character and integrity? Those boxes all get checked here. From there, the opportunities and the market development is pivotal. And I love what we're doing here, we together, because partnerships are deep and rich. That's the starting point to how I think this morning and why I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
I lean on a lot of what John said, and we were having a chat this morning, and I liken it more to maybe a conversation about opportunity and solution. And when I look at the environment that we're working today in New Orleans and what future can look like, it is so full of opportunity, and it just needs people behind it that are bringing solutions to realize that opportunity. And ultimately, that's how John and I kind of look at the space that we respectively move in, where mine is kind of water into dock, and John is off dock into land. And that connectivity is, how do we solve for something? There's always something to solve for. And today with how dynamic trade is, and so volatile, that we're moving to an environment where solutions are needed every day for everything to create those opportunities. And that ultimately is having that path forward, continuously creating opportunity enables the growth.
So pivoting a little bit off what you said about the water to land, the land to inland piece of this, let's talk a little bit about intermodal velocity and really accelerating the whole ship to rail capabilities on the lower Mississippi, and then obviously to shelf. So how do we leverage our rail connectivity and our terminal operations to shave hours or days between ship to shelf or shelf to ship?
I think a couple things that we start with. One is scale. The bigger the scale, the easier it is to manage, because then you have scale, you can get into frequency, and then frequency is the next critical factor. So having scale, leveraging frequency is kind of the starting point of that seamless service. But then the integration of data and analytics to that, right? We can build systems from ship to rail that are very efficient, very low dwell, highly accelerated, but it doesn't make a difference if we can do it if we are not moving a train a day, right? And it gets back to that. So dwell time is dependent upon that frequency in the end. And I think that's where, when we run very intense, terminal to rail product, it's been built on very close coordination with railways, of which John in his past was a part of, the same railway that I was a part of building those systems with, and ultimately that's what drives the efficiency and sustaining that, because in the end we're all trying to address the same thing: lowest landed cost to market for the same customer. And we have to know what the customer need is and provide that, and do that in a way that is ultimately the very little variability. Variability is kind of the other element that kills that inland. If you don't have that reliability and low variability, it doesn't matter what you do, because everybody has to build it on the worst case scenario when they build product.
Yeah, that's a master class in like 2 minutes. So Matt, that was amazing. But I'll keep it simple, because I'm just a simple railroader from Canada. I look at it from A to B, and as fast as I can move a product. And it is a product level now. It's not a ship, it's not a rail car, it's a product level. Because we're measuring that furry coat my daughter orders at noon hour on Sunday, and delivery date by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Sunday afternoon. So then you have to break down, how does that ecosystem work? What happens between A and B? It's not one person, it's not one entity, it's a series of things. And as you build out collaboration and you build out commitment to one another, you have to have honest, hard looks at what are your barriers, what are the touch points between the two, how do we work together, how do we create visibility and accountability and commitment to eke out value along those whole chains. I mean, I might have to run more frequently to meet a service product, and we may have to consolidate our blocking and have upstream or downstream value creation that has an overall positive impact. That's a conversation, it's not to bring Mike into this, but that's a conversation that we had not 3-4 months ago, when we were talking about a dedicated commitment to making things work. Period. How I step into that is not just about putting gas in a locomotive and coming here. It's how do I work with Ports America? How do I work with the shipping lines? How do I create value from Shanghai or Gdansk or Dubai and make sure that the reputation of New Orleans is global enough to draw goods here so that I can forward them as fast as possible upstream and simple A to B.
Right. You know, I'm going to pivot a little bit about what I heard both of you say, which is there are things like the reliability and the frequency and the cadence of the global supply chain, right? So I always think about, you know, it's great to have a service to, let's call it, Europe. But you can't just have one service to Europe. You have to have 2 services to Europe. Because what happens if you have one service to Europe and that service is late or doesn't come or whatever the condition may be? There's no plan B then. And so I think part of what we're building here together, and I should also mention it is also with MSC. I know some of you in the room with our other partner, TIL, Terminal Investment. But I think that what we're building here together is going to give a lot of that reliability, not just removing the constraint of the Crescent City bridge there downriver, but to give that reliability because we will be the gateway, I think, for the Gulf. So in a room full of stakeholders and customers and carriers and other railroads and other operators, I would love to know what you think is in it for them. I can envision it. I know you all can envision it. But from a terminal operating side and from a railroad side, you know, it's a big infrastructure project downriver.
I think I would start, Beth, almost redefining when I talk broadly about opportunity. And that is, we talk specifically about Louisiana International Terminal, a dedicated, purpose-built container facility in the state of Louisiana. Not something that Louisiana has today, and it doesn't exist very much in the Gulf, quite frankly, either. And we're talking about a geography, ultimately with deep water maritime access into a purpose-built facility designed for moving containers. And that market opportunity that's everybody should look at is not how do we serve what we're serving today, which is principally an export market, but building capability to be an import gateway. And that is where tremendous value lies for the city and for the state and for the region. It's looking at the map very simply and saying, wow, look at this little point on the map and look at its connectivity that exists today going inland. It needs access and improved access to compete at scale with other gateways in this country to serve a natural hinterland that is underserved today. And that's the criticality. So what we're talking about really is a transformational investment that not only builds for the future of Louisiana, but puts Louisiana really on the map as an import gateway for cargo. Where today it serves a different purpose, which causes a lot of strain. When people want to make choice, they really make choice about where do we bring the cargo in, not how do we serve cargo out.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, and I would add a couple of things. First, we're solving for a problem, right? We're probably a competitive problem, an access problem, and in a linear equation, we're having a stop-off for issues beyond our immediate control. That investment starts to resolve those things. So the purpose is well defined, to grow the business. Infrastructure for infrastructure's sake is like data for data's sake. It is useless.
Yeah.
And if we don't, the question was, how do we in the room come together to create value for us and we? If we don't see it as a we, it will just rust and atrophy. It will rust and atrophy. If we come together for that common purpose and understand we have to drive business in here, we have to attract in a pull environment and then drive it out into the distribution centers and the marketplaces and the industrial complexes, and understand what's in it in the immediate area of New Orleans proportionate to the national value it's going to create. That's the important piece. And so immediately here, if I'm in New Orleans, I'm seeing, okay, I'm not going to have jobs that are happening offshore in between, be the A and B, that now are going to be here. They're landed jobs, American jobs, high-paying jobs, high-skilled jobs that support the schools that we're celebrating tonight. We're celebrating Michael and Jane and their future by establishing that anchor point for their own engagement within the ecosystem. I would say that it's more important, the greater good and the bigger investment is more important than any individual or any even major company. So we have to figure out how we're going to make it work together. And that means we have to have common goals, common measurements, heightened visibility, and acute ability to have really tough discussions, because it's going to be hard work when we've got 1,000 individual ideals competing for that common purpose deliverable. And that's the beauty of the experience, the global experience you bring, Matt, and the reach that Norfolk Southern brings across 22 states in the industrial heartland of America.
I think what everyone in the room just heard, because I really heard it very clearly, we have the right partners who are going to help Louisiana move forward. I mean, really, thank you.
And Beth, you said it, and I don't want to leave it to Norfolk Southern Ports America. We do have another critical partner with us, but not with us sitting here, that we equally celebrate, and that is, MSC through Terminal Investment Limited. We're partners with them in New York. Very successful partnership in terms of what we do. And they are also a critical element of this vision that we are going to realize and building this capability.
Yep, absolutely correct. And I do, I loved some of the things that I pulled out there, because it's not, we always like to think it's only about cargo, but it's not only about cargo. I think we have several people from St. Bernard Parish in the room with us today. I'm not exactly sure where you were. I know I've seen some of you, but being able to bring jobs to St. Bernard Parish, that was really, Gary, you really led the charge after Katrina and getting this port started after 2 weeks. St. Bernard Parish was devastated, and we think that this is really going to be a phenomenal opportunity to help rebuild St. Bernard. You clearly have met Dr. Tenney today. She's really at the forefront of bringing workforce in. So I loved what you said about, it's not just about cargo, it's about the people, the community, which also means the port has a different IRR than you all do. But I think I just want to maybe conclude and wrap up here with just a little rapid fire. Things that come to your mind. What makes the Gulf, and in particular Port NOLA, competitive?
People, the attitude and the grit and determination of the people in New Orleans, the government support we have here, the community committed to the seaport, knowing your purpose and knowing your role and knowing your capability within the country, that alone creates the environment and the foundation for success.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, but I focus on culture and geography is really how I define it. There is nothing like this location right here from a geographic perspective, and nothing beats the culture that sits here, and it's a culture that is, and we've said it before, resilient, resourceful, and that is the most encouraging thing when you come here to do business. You feel it, you see it, you get heard, and you get answers, and it's great.
This is why I love that there are partners. I don't know what else to say except to end it on that. I'm really behalf of all of us, we so appreciate, we know that you spend more time in an airplane than you do on terrestrial land, and we're just really, really grateful that you're here, and I'm glad that we got to introduce you to a wider audience, and hopefully now you can eat your meal.
Yeah, thanks, Beth.
Thank you.
all both very much, really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.